Greetings, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Lesser Known But Awesome Heroes. And today, I'll be talking about the mascot of the Avengers, quote-unquote, and probably one of the most popular and most recognized members of the Avengers to both casual and old comic book fans. Yes, today, I'll be talking about the android known as the Vision. So let's not delay. Now, Vision's first appearance was in the Avengers number 57 of October of 1968, and he was created by Roy Thomas and John Buscema, I think that's how you pronounce it, Buscema. Now, believe it or not, there are three versions of it. There's an ultimate version who was actually a female. She was more of like a supercomputer or so. There's the second one, who I'll get into in a second, who's a member of the Young Avengers. But first I'm going to talk about the first android version of Vision. Yes, the original version. Now, the first Vision technically was actually created by... It was technically created by the writer-artist team of Joe Simon and Jack Kirby of Marvel Mystery Comics number 13 in November of 1940. And it was published by Marvel's predecessor Timely Comics during the 30s, 40s era. The second one, however, was created. The second Vision, which is the Vision that we know, was what I just stated. That was the one that made. That was part of the Avengers. I mean, he would appear in a semi basis until like issue number 5 into issue 500 in September of 2004, when he was presumably destroyed. He actually would star alongside Scarlet Witch, who would be his wife or lover at the time, in a limited miniseries called selfly titled Vision and Scarlet Witch, that would run from November of 1982 to February of 1983. This was followed by a second volume, and he would have his own solo miniseries from 94 to 95. Yada yada yada. Yeah. Anyway, moving on. An interesting fact, the Timely version of Vision was actually an alien from another dimension. But to get right down to the nitty-gritty, guys, is that basically the first Vision was pretty much an android created by Ultron, based, I believe, on one of the bodies, if I remember correctly. Let's see. Yeah. Okay. Apparently, according to this, there was apparently an interdimensional lord known as Immortus, who used a powerful shard crystal that split Jim Hammond in two, making him both himself, but then a husk that Ultron used to create the first Vision. And if you watch my Wonder Man video, you already know pretty much what happens. The team defeats him. He becomes disabled. They put Wonder Man's brain engrams in him, and Vision would start to have a relationship with Wanda Maximoff, Scarlet Witch, and eventually the two would actually get married. However, they never bore any children for obvious reasons, but their romantic relationship was certainly one of the more interesting ones in Marvel's gallery. Also, much like DC Comics' Red Tornado, Vision always wondered what it was like to be human. However, he would acknowledge that his memories were not per se his own, but he would actually eventually have a great trust and great friendship with Simon Williams, the man who his thought patterns, if you will, were based off of, and came to admire Simon in a sense as a brother, something that was halfway alien to Vision, but something that also made him. But then again, this was no weirder than his relationship with Scarlet Witch. Over time, Vision would actually become a great ally to the Avengers. However, tragically, during an event he was actually overloaded and set to explode, and he went to the Avengers mansion where, guarded by Scott Lang, the second Ant-Man at that time, and he tells Scott, sorry before exploding, taking out not only the Avengers mansion but killing Lang and presumably others in the process. However, the second Vision, who went by the name Jonas, is actually his patterns are based on Vision program files and mental engrams of Iron Lad. So he's pretty much got Kang the Conqueror's mindset, if you want to look at it in that sense. But what's interesting, also, apparently his brain power is also based off of a character called Alex Lipton. The first Vision was part of the Avengers and West Coast Avengers. The second one is part of the Young Avengers and the Mighty Avengers now. But either way, their powers range from density control, ranging from invisibility to intangibility, mass control ranging from extraordinary heavy to weightless, utilize phasing into beings, objects, then solidifying as a means of molecular disruption, causing pain, damage, death, or destruction. Can fly, solar energy projection via eyes or the solar jewel on their forehead, which also serves as a power battery, since Vision was kind of had basically like solar paneling powers. Basically, in other words, that gem that you see on Vision's forehead is basically a giant solar reflection rod that absorbs, solar rays. So basically, in other words, Vision is powered by the sun. Pretty cool. But Vision also is a computer IT network interfacing, super strength, intelligent, reflexes, senses as an artificial being, capable of self-repair and regeneration. So yeah, in other words, Vision has a lot of damn powers. But this is not, but one thing that I think is interesting is that a lot of people, even casual fans that know very little about the Avengers, know who Vision is. And I think that speaks very well to Vision's fame, that he's even well known to even the general audience. And I'm looking forward to seeing if they'll make a reference to him in not only the Avengers movie, but I'm looking forward to seeing him debut and become a part of the team on Earth's Mightiest Heroes. So that's it, guys. That is, the Vision, probably one of the most well-known members, but nevertheless, still very awesome. Stay tuned, guys.